Welcome back, you beautiful people, to the Real Collective Podcast. I am your host, Sean Tassay, joined by my illustrious and handsome co-host, Kyle Miller. Kyle, how you doing, pal?
You know what? I'm good. I'm good. I think as a salesman's tip was given once, it's just be like this, right? When the things are going good, sweet. When they're not going so good, sweet and fixable. Good to go.
That's it.
So I'm
Yeah,
just staying even keeled, even keeled.
keep it easy. My therapist says that I'm like a duck. She's like, "Oh, you're just like a duck. You're going along on the water. Water, if it's raining, the water's dripping. It's just going off your back and whatever. You look like nothing's happening. Meanwhile, under the water, your legs like go, 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 paddle, 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 paddle." So yeah, no, I hear that, man. That is the life of a salesperson, right?
The
Just
way it goes.
try and keep it cool. So as always, guys, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might be interested in this type of content. A little bit more from our sponsor at the midway point. We'll talk about Magic Mind. And we've got a bunch to talk about today, a bunch of different things floating around. Rates were just announced yesterday. So we'll get into as much as we can without getting too overwhelming. If you'd like to book an appointment with Kyle or I, you can do so in the calendar links below. If you'd like to download the buyer or seller guides, they are also in the links below. So first off, rate announcement was yesterday. Another hold, fourth hold in a row, keeping it at 5%. Projection anticipation for the next year coming up is that the rates will drop anywhere from, people are saying, 3/4 to a point and a quarter, give or take.
Just yeah. Again, I get into the weeds here, but if there's one thing that annoys me. I'll probably post on social about this in some way, but it's that, like, those numbers saying that statement, and no offense to you, but that statement, right, is it needs way more context than we give it. And that's the big thing because sales, funny enough, right? When people hear what they want to hear, yeah, and then turn around and say, but you said. And it's like, well, I know I said that, and it's not that I didn't mean that. It's just there's more to it. And that is that exact statement. For predictions to say that, rates are going to drop 1 to 1.25%. Okay, fine. But what does that mean? So what that means is that the prime rate, the Bank of Canada's overnight rate, could drop 1 to 1.25%. However, that does not mean that you're going to reap pure benefits from that. Or how does that happen, right? So the recap is, that's the bank's number. That's the Bank of Canada's number. That's what they lend to our banks. Our banks, bump that premium up. So yes, it will come down, but it's purely prime, right? The question is, how will those decreases affect fixed rates? That's what the vast majority of people are actually want to know. It doesn't mean that your interest rate is going to drop from 5 to 3.75. That's not what it means. I guess it could, but that's not what it means directly, right? Again, but first 2 weeks of January, the bond market was dropping. We had 5-year fixed rates drop to 4.69, 4.79, 4.89, if in most places, and it was cool. Everybody's feeling good, and then some number came out. CPI or US data, or like Joe Biden sneezed, I think, a little bit more on the left than he did on the right. And then all of a sudden the bond market's like goes back up, and now we're cruising more towards, into the fives again. So it's so volatile, and you want to hang your hat on the Bank of Canada's announcement. What you need to be doing, what you want to do, and I don't use should very often, is you're watching everything leading up to that. Right? You're maturing your mortgage. Get a rate hold as soon as you can. Get it now. Well, I don't renew for another 12 months. So what? Right. Get it now. Ride that for 120 days, check in again, and then do that process again. And if it makes sense, maybe you bail early. Pay a little bit less of a penalty, but you're going to make that money back. Right? It's just, there's different strategies to use, but it annoys the hell out of me when people are like, all the rates are going to come down. It's like, probably not. You're probably wrong. But
but
Anyways, just keep
but
educating.
it has a really big impact on consumer confidence. Like you said, we saw the first. So I've looked at a bunch of different graphs. The COO of our company, Steve Tabrizi, did a 1 hour presentation looking back at 2023, what happened, looking forward, what the expectations are in real estate in Canada. For 2024, and there were a few different graphs that he showed, and some that really caught my eye. Buyer confidence was one of them. So buyer confidence is coming up, and every time it seems to be that buyer confidence is tied to interest rates and interest rate announcements, right? And so when they announce, they say, "Hey, the rate's coming down," buyer confidence goes up, and then what also goes up? Sale prices. So it's like when everybody else thinks it's not a good time to buy, like people are looking at it so like it's such a small from such a narrow perspective that if you look at it from a bigger perspective, you're like, oh man, you should really buy when buyer confidence is at its all-time low, because then you'll buy for the lowest price that you can. Yeah, sure, the rates might be a little bit higher, but you'll factor that in. Ultimately, your monthly payments will be the same, and your refi price will be much better. So that was one that really stood out to me. And then the sort of inverse correlation between what the interest rates are and what the selling prices are, like that's crazy, like identical. Like selling prices go
So
down.
what'd you see? Like, what did he show you?
So he said exactly, here's what the average sale prices were, and here's what the average rates were. And so they just did exactly this, like at the same rate. When one went, I'm sorry if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, because I'm doing things with my hands that you cannot obviously see, but you could imagine that one slider goes up as the other goes down, and they work like in harmony, as if you were to wrap an elastic band around it. There's only so far that it can go in each direction, because most people, especially in Ottawa, are payment buyers, right? And so there is that exact relationship between what people sort of need to live in and what they're willing to pay monthly. So
marry the payment, date the rate, as the saying goes. That's what it is, and we're gonna see that. I think we're gonna see that on a couple fronts. We're gonna see that in people's renewals that are coming up, maturities that are coming up, and in the people that want to refinance, right? Or maybe don't want to, but will be forced into making a very tough decision to do that, because again, it's the payment. That's the payment's the thing, right? Like the payment's the thing, and we can chop that up 1,000 different ways. At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, what goes out of your bank account is what matters. How do we make that manageable?
Yeah,
that's it. And there's only a couple ways. You need to make more money, or you need to keep that payment less. That's it. Like it's pretty binary in the end.
Yeah.
Right. So that's and in Ottawa, I think, again, I mean, we're fortunate enough to be here, but that's still going to be conversations I have through 2024 for sure.
Well, I think they'll be going on for a lot longer than that. The other slide that he brought up that I found really interesting, and maybe we should post a link to the whole presentation right below. That's what we'll do. We'll post a link.
This is good, like public. There's no problem with it being public.
It was something that was done for us as the agents,
mm-hmm.
but it's absolutely allowed to be shared sort of for the public, so that's fine. Another thing was talking about investors, and they're buying pre-construction, either condos or builds, speculation investors. And then the last half of 2023 was, okay, good. COVID's over. These places are ready to be closed on. You've got to close on them now. And nobody could. And a lot of people who were saying, oh, well, maybe can I assign this? You're like, well, no. And I think a lot of people just walked away from their deal, walked away from their deposit, left the builder holding the bag. Some people closed, right? They figured out a way to do it, only to turn around and put it right back on the market at a loss. So obviously a lot of risks with that. Talk with your real estate lawyer about the risks that are involved with, not completing your transaction, what's in it for the builders, right? Are the builders stuck holding the bag? How much deposit is offset? What do they have to list that house for again, et cetera, et cetera? There's a lot of moving parts, but that was a lot of the second half of 2023. You could almost look at 2023 as sort of like almost two markets, right? As the interest rates were holding at the beginning of 2023, there was a lot of excitement. The rates went down, I think one or two times, and that moved right into the spring market. So it gave us that first half of the year was like, okay, this is really great, and then in the second half, it's like, oh no, you know what, we were wrong. Oops, and let's pull the rate back. And again, it all affects consumer confidence, and that psyche really plays into what people are doing. Some people had to sell, some people said I didn't want to sell. We looked at the total number of transactions in 2023 in Ottawa. It was about 12,000, but there was 21,000 people who put their house up for sale, and only 12,000 of them sold. There's 9,000 people who didn't sell their house last year who wanted to, right? Chances are they wanted too much money for it, right? They weren't.
That's an interesting statistic. Quite honestly, that's
Yeah.
9,000. Really?
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Now, to be clear, there might have been some people who had a cancellation, relisted the home, sold it at the new price. They would be captured from that 9,000. So it might not be that there's 9,000 people who didn't sell their house. They did. They just ultimately chose to sell for a lower price, right? So there's still a lot of people who wanted to sell their house last year that didn't do it. And I've spoken with a number of them already this year, and a lot of it has to do with unrealistic expectations about the value of their house. Right. I was speaking with one guy yesterday. He said, "Oh yeah, I had my house listed for 1.4 and it didn't sell. And can you come and sell my house? And I'd like to sell it for 1.5." I'm like, "I'll come talk with you, but it's going to be me talking sense into you more than it is, selling your house for 1.5."
And and I think it's a tough situation because people, again, I look at it from maybe a different perspective, maybe not, but it's just, you're selling your house, fine. So why are you selling your house? Right. And is it because you're leaving? Are you going to buy a new house? Are you jumping into the rental market? I have a client right now who's like, we're doing something at his maturity, because he's like, I'm selling this year. Like, I'm selling. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you going to do? He's like, I don't know. He's like, I might rent. I might go buy. I don't know. He's a single guy. Like, he's got that what's the word I'm looking for? Flexibility. There it is.
Freedom and flexibility. That's right.
Yeah. He can do that. But I'm at the same point, I'm working with another client. We're trying to settle things up. She's going through a separation, and ex-husband needs money and whatever. Her mother and her three kids, right? They're a family of 5. Yeah. So if they got forced into selling their house, where are they going?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going anywhere cheaper. They're not going anywhere that's going to, you're literally just going apples to apples, hopefully, right? For 5 people, right? It's different if you're a single guy. You could buy that one condo, you could buy that house, you could live in a basement, you could just sell it all and live in a truck. Like, you could do that. She can't do that, right? So it's that thought too of like, why are people trying to sell? Is it purely cash motivated? Is it a family dynamic? What is it? Because that's a lot of people trying to move houses that didn't move. Even if you cut that in half, 4,500 people trying to sell their house that didn't sell their house. That's still a number.
Yeah, that's significant. I mean, yeah, you take 4,500 of 12,000. That's still one in 4 people who wanted to sell their house that didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's significant. And the number of transactions, I think we talked about this last time, the number of transactions at 12,000 is lower than we've seen in 10 years. So there's going to be some pent up demand. I think I think last year a lot of buyers were waiting for the bottom to hit, right? They're saying, "Oh, I'll wait," and then they realize, "Oh, okay, this is the bottom. It's not going to be this idea of, oh, house prices are going to fall by 40%." Because I remember at the sort of end of 2022, there was that idea that, hey, house prices are so inflated, they're about to drop. We're going to go through a reshuffling, a whole, new world order. Well, as tough as everything is for everybody in terms of having to hold on, and live sort of, paycheck to paycheck, which a lot of people are put into that spot right now. Um, People are resilient. They're making it work. They're figuring it out. It might not be perfect right now, but there's also hope that that'll get fixed moving forward. So we'll talk about the effects of that in the second half. We'll take a quick break here. Have a word from me talking about our sponsors. But I think people are hopeful, and it is tough out there for sure. So yeah, but there is hope. So we'll catch you back in the second half. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might be interested in this type of conversation. Schedule an appointment with Kyle or I in the calendar link below, and we'll catch you on the flip side. So it's been about 2 or 3 weeks since I've been taking Magic Mind, and man, has it really changed the way that my brain works. One thing that I'm dealing with right now is the kids are sick. They're not sleeping, and as a result, I'm not sleeping. But I still need to wake up in the morning, and I need to be functional. I need to be, able to go. People are relying on me to help them make, $100,000 decisions. I need all of my functionality, and I need my brain power. And I notice that by taking Magic Mind, I'm absolutely able to be on point. I can grab that information right away. Everything is there. It's accessible. I'm, able to help people out. I'm able to have these conversations when I'm going on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Obviously not advisable for the long term, but I've got 3 young kids, and I've got one with some sort of bronchial RSV sort of thing right now. She's got asthma. She's 4. And when she coughs, it wakes up the 18-month-old. So I'm up putting one to sleep while my wife's got the other one. When we flip back over to do the other one. So it is, nighttime is not always sleep time in our house. But with Magic Mind, I'm absolutely able to make it work, to figure it out. And so this is sort of a pitch for you guys, if you're watching this, to check this out. You can use our code RealCollective20 to figure out what it means to you. In the month of January, if you're still watching this, you can get a benefit of 1 month for free when you get a 3-month subscription, plus that extra 20% off with Real Collective 20. It's got matcha inside it. It's got mushrooms inside of it. It's got all the good stuff that makes your brain work in the way that it's supposed to, and probably a little bit better than it's supposed to. I find I'm not having coffee as often, which is good. I don't feel like I need that coffee to give me that perk. And the ride is a lot longer, right? Like coffee gives you that burst where you can like blah, talk a lot and your brain is going. But with this, it seems to ride for about 5 or 6 hours, which is right in line with, when I need my brain power. So I'll normally take it about 9 o'clock and I'll ride through until probably 2 or 3, at which point it's normally time to go and pick up the kids from school. So it works out really well for my world. I got a sample box from Magic Mind, and I'm running low. I've only got 2 left, so I'll need to order more, and I'll take advantage of my discount code RealCollective20. So if you guys are interested, as always, the link will be below. Check it out. Big fan so far, Kyle. I think you are too. And until the next time, we'll see you after this is over. I don't know how to sign off. Welcome back to the second half of the Real Collective podcast. I hope you popped your Magic Mind in. If you haven't, we'll take a quick pause for you to go in the link below and order your Magic Mind directly. Now you can unpause the video and keep listening to us. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who you think might like this conversation. One of the other pieces that we talked about for 2023 and the effect that it's having overall on our population. You remember at the end of the first half, we were talking about how it's tight for people, how people are living paycheck to paycheck. The other piece is our systems. Everybody has commented like it feels like they're broken. We're just overwhelmed, right? And one of the things that was brought up in this conversation that Steve had was that we've got great policies to help people move into Canada. We need to bring more people here. We need to help them move here. We need to, give them, work to do, all that kind of stuff. And The immigration policy has been great for that in terms of getting more newcomers to come to Canada. We are absolutely a country that is built on people coming here, right? We don't have enough people, so it's great. But the problem that we have is our infrastructure isn't built to take on as many people as we've been taking on. His slide was showing that of the people who immigrate to Canada, 50% of them immigrate to Ontario. And in order to have enough things for these people, the infrastructure that we need to do includes not just houses. So we're not building enough houses. That's having a direct impact on house values. House values keep going up because we don't have enough places for people to live. But also the healthcare system. If you've talked to anybody who's needed healthcare over the last 2 or 3 years, they all keep saying, "Oh my goodness, it's falling apart. It's breaking. It's falling apart." We're adding more people, and we're adding more people in, and there's more people who are coming out of providing service, right? The school system. Oh my goodness, the school system isn't equipped to deal with all this stuff that's happening. It's da 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 da. And absolutely, we're adding too many people too quick. The infrastructure. I mean, if you want to talk about infrastructure in Ottawa, I don't know how there's only 3 lanes that move through the middle of the city and 4 lanes when you get into the suburbs. It's fucking ridiculous. All right. There needs to be 4 lanes in each direction moving through the core of the city, not 3. If you have to move across the city, the Queensway, garbage. And you say, "Oh, well, the LRT is the solution that's going to fix it." Come on.
Also garbage.
You have
currently.
Right. And the problem is the width is there, right? Like there's enough room for cars for a 4th lane in each direction to be added through the middle of the city, but they're just not. Like, come on, man. Who's responsible for this? It's ridiculous. And every day, like for all day, it's busy with cars moving through the middle of the city, right? From what is it? We're from like Saint Laurent or from Saint Laurent to like Island Park and vice versa, right? It's like, man, you have the width. Just put in the 4th lane, even if it's tight. Oh well, we don't have room for emergency vehicles. Man, there's like 3 emergency vehicles that go per day on there. And anyways, whatever. I won't get started on this. The point being, there is not the infrastructure within the and Toronto apparently has the worst traffic in the entire world. So I read it. I saw an article that's saying it's worse in Toronto than anywhere in the entire.
Yeah, rivals like years ago. It rivaled LA.
Yeah.
So it can't be any better now.
Right.
What have they done? Repave the DVP? Like they haven't done anything, right? Well, we sold the 407 for God's sakes. Anyway.
It's it's bad, and you know what? It's great to bring more people in. We need more people to do work, right? We need people you want to build houses, bring people in who are focused on skilled labor, right? What they're bringing in is a bunch of people who are focused on management. You don't need managers, right? You need people to do the work. You want to build more houses. If everybody who's coming over is a manager or a doctor or whatever, I mean, doctors, hey, bring them over, get them to do doctor stuff, right? But like, we don't need more management, white collar people. We need more people to come here and to do work and to build houses.
Go. I was just gonna say, I'm like, it's just what this is proven. What this is proven, I think, is just the fact that it's like, I think we've been as Canadians, we've been exposed. We have been exposed. Our leaders have exposed where we are at, and there's no accountability there to say like we fucked up. You know what I mean? And I think we spend so much time arguing, one side of the aisle to the other, that we just can't accept the fact. We just can't accept the fact that we didn't project long enough, and we're top heavy. And even it goes so much deeper than that too, in the fact of just what you said, right? Like, we got people that want to come over and do white collar jobs, and there's enough of that. There's too much of that already.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, like that it starts. There's just so many prongs to this. Like this is its own 7-day podcast in itself. But
Yeah.
we're gonna feel that. But we're still gonna feel that as as everyday Canadians.
Well, and as the as the um, healthcare system deteriorates, and now I've got to take my kids to Chio, and I've got to wait there for 15 hours as opposed to 4 hours. You know what? That's 15 hours that I'm not adding to the GDP, or it's 11 hours delta that I'm not adding to the GDP, right? And that's time out as a result. And how many different people is that happening to? Or, if I've got sick kids and I can't go into work because my kid got sick because nobody can afford to miss work, so they send their kids into school and the kids pass along the sickness at school and then everybody gets it. Well, now it's not just that your kids were sick and you had to miss work, but now my kids are sick and the other classmates are sick and the teachers are sick. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the the ideology is a little bit broken right now, right? The whole system is broken, and you can feel it. And the more you talk with people, the more you can feel it. It's like, especially coming out of COVID and all this stuff. It's just, it really feels like houses aren't affordable. There's no health care. The school systems are overrun. Teachers have no support. There's always a fight between the students and the teachers, and the parents don't support the teachers, and the parents are saying, well, my kid is special, and you can't discipline my kid, and like everything's a fight. It just feels like, I don't know if that's a function of just being like middle aged and it's always been like that and I just didn't notice, or if it just feels a lot different today than it was when we were growing up, right? So I don't know, man. This isn't a
Yeah.
therapy session. I'm sorry. This is not what I wanted to do.
Well, no, but I mean but it has to factor in. It has to factor in to people's decisions. I mean, I'm in a coaching group with a bunch of mortgage brokers, and one of our brokers is like several people is she's down in Panama. She's like, enough. Grab the fake kids, the family. She works remotely. I don't know what her husband does. And she lives down in Panama. My tattoo guy is down in Mexico, and people were ostracizing him. He's not like I'm in Cancun. He's like deep, like legit Mexico,
Yeah.
20 minutes from Guatemala, where there's literal gang wars. And he's like, yeah, people were giving me huge shit for bringing my kids down there and whatever. But he's like, our way of life is way, it's different. But he goes, but the kids still, they educate here. Like they're online.
Right.
I had another buddy who took off. They lived in there. He's a national sales manager for a lender.
Wow.
His him and his wife, they drove down to wherever in the States for Christmas. Stay and we're living in their RV.
Yeah.
And then she was like, "Can we just keep going?" And
Yeah.
they like couple emails back to the school and like, "Hey, can the kids just log in every day?" Right? Because it was just on that tail end of COVID.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Sure." And the school and the classrooms adapted where they're like, "Hey, every week, whatever, child one has to do this presentation on where they've been this week, has to hit these points, and that's some English and that's some history and that's some this and some this." And she would present every day, and then they would pick up and they would drive 4 or 5 more hours to somewhere else. Like they figured out a plan, and he would fly back in, right? He would fly in. The house was rented. He'd fly in, hang out, do his stuff for 2, 3 days of the week, and be going remote. Literally live on a buddy's couch at 50 years old, which he was like, enough of that. They eventually pulled that back in, right? So, it's like, so that's how they did. So all of that to say, right? People are finding, like, you're going to find your own way if you let yourself get. No offense to the collective, but if you get sucked into the collective, right?
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
there's that feeling versus, and it's a double-edged sword as I say this. If you focus on you and what you do and how you live, then that's great. That's also part of the problem is people only focus on them. Therefore, everyone else is just, you know, non-existent, which causes a different problem. Like, it's just a wild time to be here. It's a wild time to be here. It's a wild time to be us. And I think our generation's even more interesting because of the sheer change we've seen in literally everything. Yeah. Right? I mean, everybody's seen it, but we went from literal tape players and records to just the Internet of Things and Smash, and my kids don't know what a home phone is. Like,
yeah. Well,
you know, like all that,
like a big wheel, like all the way from when we were a kid, like a 3-wheel big wheel, and knocking on your friend's door if you want to play. You know, all the way to, hey, you know what? I don't think I want to live here anymore. So now I'm going to go. Like, I was talking to a guy who owns a business here. He's like, yeah, I think, you know, my 10-year plan is to move to England. I was talking with another real estate agent. Yeah, you know, I think my 10-year plan is we're going to land in Portugal or in Spain. Okay, cool. Spoken with another realtor. Hey, you know what? I don't live here anymore. I still have all my connections back in Ottawa, but I'm a realtor now down in Mexico. Another realtor. Hey, I don't live here anymore. I still have all my connections back in Ottawa and I can refer business back and forth, but I live in Florida now. And, you know, people are just saying enough's enough. And, you know, maybe the grass is greener somewhere else, right? Maybe it's a question of, hey, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't what I want anymore. I mean, you talked earlier about what Biden said or who he spoke with or whatever. I think there's a lot of people who are scared that, you know, Trump's doing as well as he is. He might be back for another term. Who knows, right? Like,
but pendulums swing, and I think what's on one hand, right? Typically, this is where changes happen. In you know, if I'm being philosophical about it, all this unrest changes something, hopefully for the better, yeah. Right? Like, again, pulling a positive out of COVID, it changed my business. It changed the way we do business. Like that young lady in Panama, she couldn't do that 5 years ago. Yeah. She wouldn't have got dead doing that. Yeah. I know half a dozen brokers who are just like, peace, and they left, and their entire business is here. They are not here. Yeah. Right. And the adaptation of that, and you know, it's changing the way, you know, kids not going to school. Okay, my kid's not in school today because the buses are canceled. All right. Well, I could work from home, and I will. I mean, yeah, there's still things to do there, but we can do that. Like, it's how we're going to adapt. Like, it's going to be interesting to see what those kids do, what our kids do to figure that out. Yeah. Right.
Well, I mean, look at this. We're doing a podcast. We're in 2 different places, right? And normally, to do a podcast, you would sit down both in the same spot. So,
and we're going to send this away to be edited by somebody else
in Toronto, right? And then re-looked at by someone else in Winnipeg. So this is the new world order.
As always, we're going to get, you just said it.
I said, well, hey, you know what?
Here we go.
Yeah, cancel me. Either that or I'm a conspiracy theory. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think would like to be a part of the New World Order with us. If you'd like, you can book an appointment with Kyle or I on the Calendly link below. Thanks again to Magic Mind, the sponsor of this podcast. You can also get a buyer guide or a seller guide in the links below. And if you'd like to get your own Magic Mind, you can get it with the info down below. As always, thank you so much for your ears on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks for your eyes and ears on YouTube. And until the next time, keep it real.
Collective.